Today in What the Tech, we're going to take a look at how you install the Ambi Selector switch in your MTW.
What the tech?
So, ambidextrous selector switch is itself pretty easy to install. You will need to have already removed your electronics. If you do not know how to do this, please go watch the video on electronics that we have posted and use that as a guide for removing your control board before you attempt to replace the selector switch. While it is possible to replace the selector switch without doing this, we do not recommend it, as you can very easily damage the switch here, your selector switch. The barrel can get caught on it as you're trying to remove it or install it and break that switch there. So we always recommend removing your electronics before you attempt to change the selector switch. Now, you will need whatever tools you're going to use for that. Again, we go over that in that video. For the selector switch, you really only need two tools. You need a 3/16 Allen wrench with a fairly long drive, because we're going to get the grip screw with that. And then you will need a 2mm Allen wrench for the selector switch itself. To remove, we're going to start by removing the grip. When we remove the grip, we're going to have our detent spring, our grip screw, and our grip. And then you'll have the detent that comes out as well. Final thing will be our standard selector switch here. So let's go ahead and grab an ambidextrous selector switch and show you how to install that. The ambidextrous selector switch is going to come with a few pieces in the bag. You will get two screws. They are identical. You will get two paddles. They are different lengths. You have the longer paddle, which is our standard paddle, which we generally put on the left side of the gun, and you have the short paddle, which we generally put on the right side of the gun, but these are reversible. You can pick which side you want them on. Either way is fine. And then you will also get your ambidextrous selector barrel. You will see it has the notch to take the paddle on both sides. The side with the detents on it is going to end up on the right side of the gun. So before we assemble this, figure out which side we want the paddle on, and use that as your reference. So we're going to put the long paddle on the left side, like we normally do here. You can see there is a cutout in the molded part here that matches the cutout on the barrel. And these can be a little bit snug, but if you sort of catch the flat edge together and then kind of snap them straight together, they generally go without too much trouble. Then we're going to take our 2mm Allen key, and we're going to tighten this down. If you want a little bit of blue Loctite, would not go amiss here, but don't use anything permanent, because you likely at some point will want to disassemble this again. So a little blue Loctite wouldn't be a bad idea, but it's generally not really necessary. Now, second paddle we're not going to install until we have it all back together. So, with the one paddle installed, detents again go towards the right side of the gun. So we're going to go ahead and slide it in. Now if we flip it upside down, we can drop our detent pointed end first into the hole right here. Okay. Now lay it on our side. Don't let it tip back too much so that the detent doesn't fall out. Then we're going to get our grip here. So the detent spring goes in the hole in the grip, and then our Allen key, there are two holes in this grip because you have the one for the airline, but our Allen key goes in the small 1/4 inch hole at the front of the grip. And then we're just going to put it all together kind of sideways. That prevents the detent or the spring from falling out. And just sort of feel around until you feel the thread start. There we go. Check before you tighten it all the way down that your spring is actually engaging on the detent. You can sometimes get the spring kind of folded over, and you don't want to crush the spring. So make sure it's actually engaging on the detent before you finish tightening it down. Alright, we can check that we're working properly. Now, for the second paddle, we're simply going to do the same things we did on the opposite side. Line up the square edge, pop it on, take our 2mm Allen key and our other screw, tighten it down. There we go. Now you can proceed with reinstalling your electronics and your trigger, and you'll be ready to go. So that's how you install your ambidextrous selector switch on your MTW.